Welcome to AI to the Sky podcast, where global AI leaders take off. Hosted by Joseph Vale.
This episode is powered by Rocket AI. WhatsApp bans costing you sales. Rocket AI automates messaging legally with AI. Your competition's already using it. RocketAI.lat.
Hello, listeners. This is Joseph Vale, and in this episode, we will explore how clarity and inclusivity in communication can transform business relationship in a globalized AI-powered world. Myke Wilder will share practical strategies for speaking global in English with impact, without losing the human touch, and how AI can be an ally in enhancing our communication skills. Myke, welcome.
Thank you. It's terrific to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. So, Myke, you have over 28 years of experience in bilingual communication in English and French, and more than 13 years helping non-native speakers building real confidence. Your personal journey, including living without hearing loss, gives you a unique perspective on what it truly means to be heard and understood. Today, our goal is to make this a dynamic conversation full of real stories and practical takeaways for entrepreneurs, business leaders, and AI enthusiasts who want to communicate clearly lost across markets and cultures. Welcome, Myke. Where are you? How are you today?
I am great, and I am in Montreal, Canada. Now, Montreal is kind of an odd place. Montreal is in the province of Quebec in Canada. Quebec is the only French-speaking area in North America. Montreal is the fourth largest French-speaking city in the world. And I have grown up as part of a very small English language speaking minority in Quebec.
Oh, that's interesting.
But a lot of business happens in English because global English happens in English, and it has for some time now. And also the rest of Canada speaks English. So if you're working for a company that is countrywide, Canada-wide, you're going to be working in English, French in Quebec, but English with people outside of Quebec. So my job for most of my career has been to help French companies communicate better in English.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Well, the hard part is understanding the French.
Yes, for French, sure.
Well, Quebec French is very, very, very rapid fire. It's very, very quick, like actually pretty much all languages. Conversational Spanish is very fast. In Quebec, I don't know. Je ne sais pas becomes je sais pas. Je sais pas. And that passes for je ne sais pas. Yeah, except, in English, I don't know becomes, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, yeah. And English people understand that, but a lot of English second language speakers don't. And this is where communications really can break down in a team, in a company, when you're in a multilingual environment and people are just speaking conversational English. Now, throughout the podcast, for your listeners' understanding, I am going to be speaking, I'm a little allergy ridden today, but I am going to be speaking with my global English voice. And it's not slow, it's just pronouncing all the words, because my regular voice is like this. This is how I speak to my friends. If I go to a restaurant, I go for a beer with friends, we're all speaking like this. But this is how I speak in a business meeting, in a podcast, because people need to understand, and this is speaking to be understood.
Wow. Yeah, I can tell the difference. Wow, it's huge. The difference is huge.
And ethnic English speakers think, I want them to speak like this. No, it's very normal, it's very natural. And if you look at the news, if you look at English news, the people who read the news speak like I'm speaking now. They don't speak in conversational English. They speak to be understood because their job is to deliver information. And that's what a manager's job is too.
You are right. Yeah, yes. I never seen from that perspective, but now that you are talking to us in that way, it's I can understand you perfectly.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. We'll be talking about this a little bit more as we get into things.
Okay. Thank you so much, Myke. So let me ask you the first question. Myke, can you recall a moment in your professional life when effective communication changed the course of a negotiation or a project?
Okay, I was in a meeting, a first meeting, a project launch meeting with the entire management team of a very well-known restaurant chain in Quebec and also in Canada. And I had been hired to help them prepare a project to claim tax credits for scientific research and experimental development. It's a very large government program. If companies do R&D, they can claim tax credits for their investments in R&D because new technology increases the economy, you hire more people, you develop more projects. And I wanted to tell them how important it was that the amount of hours that employees give to the project, and those salaries can be claimed for those hours as tax credits, that it was really important for them to track them accurately and keep good records, or that tax claim could fail. But I was speaking French, which is my second language, and instead of the word échec for fail, I used the word faillite, which sounds a lot more like failure in English, and my brain picked that word. But it turns out that in French, faillite only refers to bankruptcy. And what I had told them was that if they didn't track the hours and they filed for R&D, they could put the company in bankruptcy. And that really got everyone's interest very, very quickly. Lots of comments like, what do you mean? Qu'est-ce que tu dis? C'est pas possible. What are you talking about? And then we got that worked out, and I was really embarrassed and thought that I had lost the contract. But the VP of Finance said que lui-même, j'ai fait pire en anglais. Me, I've done worse in English. So everybody kind of relaxed and things went on from there. And it was a very successful project.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's powerful, Myke.
It is, but
What
you know
your
something? I'm going to do something. I want to tell this story for because your audience is yes, they're all AI, but IT related.
yeah.
So in 2004, also an opening meeting between the team and the client section. It was an SAP deployment to a very large manufacturing company. And the, the, the deployment team, the implementation team that I was part of, they just kept speaking in very technical language. And finally, one of the team members introduced himself and said, "I'm the head of BAPR." And they just got mad and they said, "Who are you people?" Like in French, what is this? I don't know if you know, but SAP is coded in a kind of proprietary language, I think, called a BAP plus. So the coders for SAP are called the BAPers. And he should have said to the client, "I'm in charge of coding all of the changes that will go into the software." But he just talked like he was talking to the rest of the IT team. So it's really important for IT people, especially, not to fall into jargon, but for anyone who is dealing with someone who is working in a subject that your audience may not be fully familiar with, it's really important to keep the language understandable. Think of your audience. Who am I talking to? Because you're not just talking. If you are, you're just talking, and that doesn't help. But if you're thinking of your audience, speak to them in a way that they can understand, using language that they could understand, and you will get your message across.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was powerful, Myke. What you're pointing out connects directly with what I see when I implement AI-driven automation in business. Miscommunication. It's important because it can trigger financial and reputational risks too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And frankly, the damage that miscommunication does to companies, to the economies, really in the US, it's billions of dollars a year are lost due to bad communications. And it leads to loss of reputation. It can lead to employees leaving. It can lead to lawsuits. So it's really important to communicate clearly. And most of my work is helping people to communicate clearly in a spoken way. But think of how important it is to communicate clearly with an AI. What happens if your prompt is not right? If you haven't given it the correct data and information that it needs to consider to actually do the calculations and give you an answer or give you an article or give you whatever it is that you're asking for. Way back in the day, because I predate the internet and I'm an old guy, I predate like the small computers, but there was an expression, GIGO, G-I-G-O. Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage out.
So, and that counts just as well for an AI.
Yes, you are definitely right, because in this case, as you said, data, it's really important because you are going to get bias, you're going to get hallucinations, and many other things that are really harmful for this kind of systems.
Absolutely.
In your experience, what real impact does message clarity have in international negotiations?
It's everything. Clarity is everything because trust is everything in negotiations. And if you are not communicating clearly, it can sound to the other side like you're hiding something or you're trying to not disclose something, and the level of trust goes down and the chances of success go down with them. So clarity is incredibly important in negotiations, it's also really important to think of it from the other side. If you are in negotiations with a team that are speaking English second language, then they're going to make mistakes. The kind of mistake that I made in my meeting, using the wrong word and saying we're going bankrupt. And if that happens, or you're not following, the proper thing to do is say, I'm not hearing that well. Can you say that in a different way, please? I really want to understand clearly what that is, and help them out. And that will help you build trust.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because what you're saying, to ask for clarifying something, it's kind of difficult, right? Especially when you are in a meeting with many people.
It is, and I have lived that, and it is very, very difficult, which is actually why my suggestion to teams, to companies, is to introduce this signal. It's just a letter C. It stands for either clarity or comprehension. And you don't have to stop people. If someone's giving a presentation, if they use an expression you don't understand, if they're speaking, if they say something that is, you can just signal. If everybody understands that this is what this means, you can just signal. And you're not stopping the meeting, you're not interrupting anything, but you're letting the speaker know that they have to come back because something that they said didn't ring with you. And that really, it kind of takes the onus, it takes the responsibility a little bit away from the person who's listening. If they can just signal, instead of having to, oh, wait, stop, please, what was that? It's really hard. It takes a lot of courage. And if people can't find a way to do it, then that's where you end up with people walking out of meetings not having understood half of it. And that doesn't help. The purpose of the meeting is to get everyone to understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's a compelling example. Thank you so much. So, Myke, what are the most common mistakes companies make when integrating maybe AI into their communication strategy?
Well, okay. This is going to sound a little special, but I've been doing some research. When we input things to AI, the system translates it using algorithms, using all kinds of things to turn it into binary code, because AI systems speak binary code. They don't speak English, they don't speak French, they don't speak Spanish, they speak binary code. So all AI systems are working in second language, which means that we have to communicate with the same kind of clarity that I advocate for vocal communication with the AI. Now, I know from experience that a lot of AI systems do not understand speech perfectly yet.
Yeah.
I do a lot of meetings. I do a lot of meetings with Japanese clients, with French clients, with Spanish clients who speak English because it's an English coaching class with an accent. And then when I look at the notes that the AI generates after the meeting, they are not accurate in all cases. They get a lot of it, but there are mistakes. And I know for sure when I do my little TikTok things for TikTok, the computer generates the underlines, and I always have to correct them. So we have to think, first of all, that the AI is speaking second language, but also something that is really important, and we kind of touched on it before. If you are using the AI for communications, and you're writing materials that are there to improve the public's understanding, to analyze the success of your communications, if you haven't given the AI correct and complete data on your product, on your other communications, on what your business objectives are, then there isn't any way for the AI to produce really quality material for you because you haven't given it the background. And there is so much talk about how AIs are taught, and they are, but the user is responsible for teaching the AI the specific cases for the company that they're working with, they're working for. So that's a really serious issue. That, and it ties into garbage in, garbage out, and also there's always an issue with the regional English accents. People have that also.
Oh yes, you're right, Mike, because it's as you said, it is important to prompt properly when you are talking with AI. You also can give, there are many techniques of prompting. One of them is that you can adjust the temperature, but if the temperature is low, it's going to be perfect with your prompt. So that's how
so
it works.
You can adjust. I would say you would adjust the leeway, the amount of space that the AI has to work in.
To imagine.
That's really interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can adjust. And there's another technique,
COT, chain of thought.
When you are prompting too, you can give AI examples. And as you are giving examples, so you are giving parameters to the AI to work with.
That is something that I have done.
Yeah, and that's really helpful.
I was talking about regional accents, and a lot of your listeners are CEOs, are people who have very high positions. I was working with a client in Quebec. She is a francophone, French speaking, and working for a large multinational firm. And the company got a new CEO who was from Australia. And she told me something that was really, really interesting. She said, when the new CEO made videos that were distributed around the company, online, on company bulletin boards, she said she could understand his Australian English very well. But when he made a site visit, or he was just doing a Zoom meeting with the team, she had terrible, terrible trouble understanding him. And what that tells me, and I know this for a fact because I've worked in a lot of years, most executives, they get what's called media training. If they're going to do a video for employees, but mostly if they have to appear at a news conference or an event and they're going to be interviewed on television, they get training on how to speak for that, but they forget that when they're speaking to their own teams, if their own team has second language speakers, they need to use their media voice, not their regular voice. Now,
Oh, really?
I always call it a global voice. I call it a global English voice. Some CEOs in the audience might think, well, yeah, I have a media voice for when I'm interviewed. Why should I use that when I'm in a meeting with employees? If your employees are speaking second language, unless they're at the very high scale of English proficiency, that's what you should be doing, because that will give the clarity that they need. So a lot of already have the training. They just haven't, it hasn't been sort of proposed that they use it more.
So, Mike, how would you define global English that works everywhere without sounding robotic?
Well, do I sound robotic? Have I sounded robotic while we've been having this conversation? Do I?
Definitely. No,
No,
not at all.
no. It's a perfectly relaxed voice. It's a very human voice. The difference is that I am not connecting my words together. I'll tell you a little secret. English people hate words that start with vowels. Because if I have to say, oh, I saw an ocean octopus when I was on, when words start with a vowel, we have to stop to set our breath, because vowels start down here, and it causes us to pause. So the thing that we do is we take the consonant from the word before, and we take it off that word, and we add it to in front of the vowel. So instead of saying an ocean octopus, we say an ocean octopus. The ends get transferred over, and now it becomes an ocean octopus. And it's very fast. The words are a little twisted, and it can be easily misunderstood. And there are a lot of other things that we do to mangle English in order to speak more quickly, in order to speak like this, because this is how we speak when we're together. But we shouldn't do that if there are people in the meeting or in the conference or just in a conversation who speak second language. And can I move on with this a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. There are people who speak second language English who can understand conversational English. But there are 2.2 billion people in the world who either speak or are learning English right now. And only maybe the top 10% could actually understand, or 5% could really understand conversational English. And if you're going to meet someone, or you're going to enter into a negotiation, or maybe it's just a first call, or someone who is a potential partner, and you're trying to figure out, do they speak English? One of the things you can do is look at their LinkedIn account, their LinkedIn profile, and look at their education, because there is a link between higher education. Now, 3 out of 4 non-English speaking countries in the world have an English component in their educational systems. So everybody speaks a little, but the teachers are local. They're not ethnic English speakers. So it's like, I have that with my French. My accent is terrible because I learned French from English speaking people. But if you look, the higher the education level, the more likely that they've had subsequent training in English, and their English might be better. Another thing is look at the universities that they graduated from. If they went to university in an English-speaking country, then you know that they speak English well enough to have done their classes and lived in the city and been in this immersion environment. So you can expect that you will not have to be quite so careful with your communications because you're working with someone who is highly educated and very likely, you'll find out when they arrive, but at the higher level of second language proficiency.
Oh, those are valuable insights for our audience. Yeah, Mike. So let me ask one question more. If an entrepreneur wants to break into international markets, let's say tomorrow, what 3 immediate actions you would recommend to improve their communications?
The first thing that I would do is I would, as I said before, listen to your local national news anchor, someone who is reading the news in English, and try and replicate that voice. It's really a question of just saying the words, because if they can hear the words, they can understand the sentence. The problem is that we just don't say words. We say whole sentences. We say whole sentences as one word. And that makes things difficult. You should avoid idioms and expressions like, don't kick things off, start the meeting. So expressions and idioms, they don't translate across cultural lines. I had a really hysterical occasion. I was working for a very large, not tech, sort of telephone and company, and they received a survey from Minitel, which used to be the French telecommunications company, the telephone company. And it literally said, you may think that you have other cats to whip, but this is an important survey. Now, in English, that sentence should be, you may think you have other fish to fry. That is the real idiom in English, but this is important. But they just translated the French idiom, because we fry fish, the French whip cats. It doesn't translate. It's really hard to stay away from idiom. I think the last thing that I would like to add about this subject, if you haven't done yet, if you have not done this yet, you should be preparing a glossary, a dictionary, just a sheet of paper, a small booklet with all of the vocabulary and special expressions and especially the shortcuts that we use to talk about things in a particular industry. Like I was talking about a BAPRs before. The names of different projects or different softwares that you use that you have developed, all of those specific language bits that are part of your company's culture, you should create a list of that with translations, with what it means or what it stands for. Because that will really, really help you onboard second language employees much more quickly.
Wow. Okay, Mike, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and clear and human communications.
It's really been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, for our listeners, remember being understood is a business advantage. And follow AI to the Sky on Spotify and YouTube for more conversation like this.